I remember the first time I ever heard about Amen Thompson. It was word of mouth from my little brother. Now, me personally, I'm not really into basketball if it's not the NBA. And I know I make a lot of videos when it's draft time, but usually around the NBA offseason, I start to look up the top prospects. I like to watch their highlights, and I like to read about them guys, read about their strengths and weaknesses. But I never really got into college basketball or the G League or overseas league. So when my little brother told me about the Thompson twins, I'm like, okay, where they play at? And he told me they're from the Overtime Elite League. And I'll be honest, at the time I told him, I'm like, man, they ain't about to be doing nothing from the Overtime Elite League. And then I did end up reading about them. I read that they might be lottery picks, and I read that one of them might be coming to the Detroit Pistons, and one of them did come to the Detroit Pistons, and that was Asar Thompson at the 5th overall pick, and then the Houston Rockets got them at the 4th overall pick. And I remember seeing their highlights in the Overtime Elite League, and what jumped out to me about these guys was their insane athleticism, and then they had some very crazy basketball IQ. And then around the NBA draft, I'm saying these guys get interviewed. They're asking them about questions about the history of basketball, and they're answering every single question like they're a Google search bar. So their basketball IQ and their love for the game of basketball was very obvious. And then having a twin brother to push you like that your whole life, it said a lot about them guys. And I know that we got Asar Thompson, but it was something about Amen Thompson that really mesmerized me as a fan of the game of basketball. And we didn't see too much of him in the summer league because he tweaked his ankle, but when he made his NBA debut when he started to play in the NBA, and we look at his rookie campaign, two things really jumped out to me about Amen Thompson. Number one was his ability to be impactful no matter what his role was. And we seen him play so many different roles for the Houston Rockets during his rookie year. We saw him be in situations where he was only playing 10 to 12 minutes. And then we saw his minutes increase off the bench. And then we saw him become a starter in some games. But no matter what Coach Ime Udoka asked Amen Thompson to do, he seemed very happy to do it. And he actually ended up having a very terrific rookie season, and he was a huge part of helping the Houston Rockets when they were making that late playoff push, when they almost had a chance to get that 10th spot in the Western Conference playoffs to get into the play-in tournament. So he was really good no matter what Coach Ime Udoka asked him to do, whether it was play the center, play the point guard position, be the team's best rebounder, guard the best team's opposing player. And then the second thing that jumped out to me about Amen Thompson, he just looked really good as a basketball player, as an athlete. His athleticism, he's very athletic, and it looks a lot different than his peers and other players in the NBA. He is so fast with and without the basketball in his hands, and then with the basketball in his hands, you hear me say this all the time, never really seen anything like Amen Thompson, or I haven't seen anything like Amen Thompson in a very long time. To be 6'7", to be that fast, to be that athleticism, that athletic, and still be so savvy at the same time, to still be so shifty at the same time. All the last season I kept saying, man, I hope Amen Thompson, I know it's a lot of guys ahead of him on the food chain, but I really hope to see him get the basketball in his hands more, because it's a thing of beauty. Every time he gets that ball in full court and he's handling that basketball, it's like a horse, it's like a majestic horse running and gliding on the beach. I'm not kidding with you guys. I love watching Amen Thompson with the basketball in his hands, but he had a terrific rookie season. We heard great things about him all off season long from the Rockets staff, from his teammates, and then we seen him carry that momentum into this season. He was so big time at this beginning of the year for the Houston Rockets, and we started to see him gain some respect, gain some notoriety around the league. Him and Tari Eason was doing some amazing things off the bench together this season when the Houston Rockets, when their three-point shot wasn't falling, when their offense was still finding their footing. There was a few games where Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, they came off the bench, no plays being drawn up for them, just their pure energy on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball, wielding the Houston Rockets to wins. And then that's when the speculation started. We knew it was coming. We didn't know how it was going to come. No, pause. But we knew Amin Thompson was going to crack that starting lineup. And unfortunately, it had to come at the hand of an injury to one of his teammates, one of his brothers. And I do believe that all of these guys are brothers, man. I believe when these guys come in, they get drafted around the same time, and they got that weight of restoring the franchise on their shoulders. They got the weight of that on their shoulders. It becomes a real brotherhood. But it's unfortunate that it had to come at the injury of Jabari Smith Jr., who was having a terrific year this season, who was also very impactful for the Houston Rockets. But it became an opportunity for Amin Thompson, and since he's been in that starting lineup, he has been a nightmare for opposing teams, and he has been a blessing for the Houston Rockets. And it's obvious that we were not wrong for speculating, not Jabari, but Amin Thompson becoming a starter for the Houston Rockets, because since he's been a starter, he's been putting up some amazing numbers. He started 13 games so far this season for the Houston Rockets, and his numbers are ridiculous. He's averaging 16.8 points and 11.8 rebounds, so basically 17 points and 11 rebounds. And then on top of that, he's getting 2 blocks per game, and then he's shooting 56% from the field. And as a fan of the game of basketball, I'm honestly very excited to be able to see Amin Thompson be able to thrive and play in pivotal moments in NBA games, even though he cannot really knock down the three-point shot just yet. And I think the NBA, the coaching staffs, I think they've really gone away of utilizing these guys, even though they cannot shoot the three-point shot. And it's honestly very annoying. And we see it all the time around the NBA. We see guys that can't shoot we see them get left wide open. And it's one thing and something that those guys do, they feed into it. They either shoot those shots knowing they can't shoot three-pointers and they miss it badly, or they don't do anything with the basketball at all. They don't attack, they don't make themselves a threat on the basketball court, and they give it up. But what you see with Amin Thompson, when you see him get that basketball on the perimeter and he sees someone sagging off of him, he doesn't let them off the hook and take a jumper. He goes downhill, he puts pressure on the rim, and he does whatever shot is most comfortable for him, and he makes the defense pay. So he's been able to get past that lack of three-point shooting and still be impactful when teams are not when teams are sagging off of him. And then when he's not on the perimeter, he's hanging around that dunker spot where he's been so great at, especially playing alongside Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green. People had questioning about the spacing when these three guys, or I should say when Alperen Sengun and Amin Thompson were on the basketball court together. But I love watching them guys. Alperen Sengun is such a great passer. He attracts so much attention, and when he is attracting that attention, that means guys are helping, and he's finding guys. And a lot of times since Amin Thompson has been in that starting lineup, he finds Amin Thompson in that dunker spot, and he's so athletic. It's so easy for him to go up and dunk the basketball with 2 hands or make a stand and layup around the rim. And then also on the offensive side of the ball, something that he does so tenaciously is offensive rebound. He goes up there, and I think it's just a sense of him being so athletic, but then also you can see that he wants it more than everyone else, man. These Thompson twins, they remind me of like they just some basketball cyborgs, some basketball robots out there. They don't look like they was fed like the rest of us growing up. But I love the way that he's made a way to be impactful on the offensive side of the ball when we have this thing going on in the NBA, to where it's like, if you can't shoot, you can't be impactful on the offensive side of the court. And obviously that's simply not true. So Amin Thompson, I'm loving what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball. And for some reason, whenever Amin Thompson is in that starting lineup, it brings out a different side of Jalen Green, who I believe just won Western Conference Player of the Week through 4 games, averaging 32 points per game. So shout out to him, because he got off to a slow start this season. But the same thing happened last year. I don't know if you guys remember. Alperen Sengun went down, and Amin Thompson became that de facto center, and then all of a sudden, Jalen Green started to go crazy. So I don't know if that same correlation happened at this exact time this year. Did Jalen Green start heating up once Amin Thompson replaced Jabari Smith-Jr. in that starting lineup? But it seems like whenever those two guys are on the court together, they bring out a lot of good from each other. And then we all know what Amin Thompson is on the defensive side of the ball. He can literally be an elite on-ball pesky defender, or he can be one of the best help defenders in the NBA. As we see as a starter, he's averaging 2 blocks per game to go along with 11 rebounds. So the Houston Rockets, I knew it was just a matter of time before they let this very dangerous weapon off the leash, because when you have somebody like him, it's so hard, especially when you're the Houston Rockets, when you guys are being successful and you're winning games, and you looking at it like we don't really have a reason to change our starting lineup unless an injury happens. And then the injury happens to Jabari Smith Jr. and Amin Thompson. He's been looking amazing as a starter. So that's what I want to talk about with the Houston Rockets today. They've been so great this season. I don't want to be one of them guys, but we spoke this into existence. I think over these last 2 to 3 years, the Houston Rockets have been so amazing with the decisions that they've been making, bringing in Fred VanVleet, bringing in Dillon Brooks. I remember a lot of the basketball world said they overpaid for those guys, but looking back at their situation, that was exactly what the Houston Rockets needed at the time. And then they continue to hit in the NBA draft, and then to put the cherry on top, they get a gem of a coach in Ime Udoka after his departure from the Boston Celtics. So it's just been a great, from my personal point of view, it's been a great 2 to 3 years of the decision making for the Houston Rockets, really going back to 2021 when they selected Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun. But that's going to be it for today's video. You guys let me know how you liked it, comment down below, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.